Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Jill Derby joins us. She's got a brand new book out. She's the former Democratic State Party chair. It's all about politics over the last 50 years in Nevada on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome to the Winnemucca Big R.
Hi, I'm John Walker. Welcome to Big R Lovelock.
Hi, I'm Rich Martin. Welcome to Fallon Big R.
My name is Braden. Welcome to Big R Fernley.
Hi, I'm Kelly. Welcome to Big R Sparks.
For 50 years, Nevada Heating has been keeping people comfortable in their homes. At Nevada Heating, call the Do It Right guys and get the air conditioning back on today. That's the Nevada Heating way. Why sweat for days on end when Nevada Heating can get your air conditioning fixed today? Call us today and we'll fix it today at 323-5585 or schedule us on our website at nevadaheating.com.
Hit the open road with a truckload of cash free play in one of 3 luxury travel trailers during the $250,000 travel time giveaways. Thousands in weekly giveaways plus $7,500 in grand prizes guaranteed. And a new travel trailer or $35,000. Now at the Carson Valley Inn.
Story County is leading Nevada. Home of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, Google, Tesla, Panasonic, and other world-leading companies. Story County provides thousands of tech, advanced manufacturing, and logistics careers for Nevadans. We're diversifying and driving Nevada's economy and generating millions in tax revenue and billions in economic activity across northern Nevada. Story County is leading Nevada's future.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Jill Derby. She's the former Democratic State Party chair and an educator of many years, and now a published author with When You Dare to Say Yes, Jill Derby and Nevada Activism, and this came out February 27th of 2024. What prompted you to write the book?
And here it is. Well, it's a long chapter of Nevada history. It's 5 decades, really, of Nevada history that all started in the 70s with a group of us that were advocating for the Equal Rights Amendment, and Nevada was one of the key states, one of the last 3 that could ratify it, put women's rights in the Constitution. And we were up against it, and there were only about 3 women in the legislature. We ultimately lost that battle at that time. Nevada has gone on to pass equal rights, 5 decades later. But we recognize that one of the reasons we lost it were there were so few women in the legislature, 3 or 4 maybe in the entire legislature. And we felt after losing it, okay, we have to change this equation. If there'd been more women there would be more that understand the limited opportunities that women had in the 70s. I mean, the professions open to women. I mean, you could really be a teacher, a nurse, a secretary, very limited. And you look across the playing field and the landscape in Nevada, and there just weren't the opportunities that women should have, nor fairness and pay, and all those kinds of issues. And we thought, we need to have more gender balance in this legislature, and we started working on it. So I was one of many. I worked with Jean Ford and Sue Wagner and so forth, holding sessions where we trained women to run for public office. And this book tells the story of those 5 decades and how in 2018 Nevada became the first state in the United States to have a woman majority legislature. And of course that was much celebrated
absolutely.
In 2018. I mean, that was a major accomplishment. I wanted to tell the story about where that all started, just sort of the momentum for that, the recognition, that it wouldn't be a level playing field for women until we got more women in the legislature. And then, I go on and I talk about my role, 2 decades in the Board of Regents, and there were major advances and developments that happened at that time. So I talk about not just my role, but not even mostly my role, but about the big events that happened and what was the story behind them. UNLV got the first woman university president in Nevada. I chronicled that. I chaired that search committee. It was a fight to the end.
Right.
And so there are a lot of good stories there about starting Nevada State College. There was huge resistance against that.
Yes.
And now it's become a major player in Nevada's higher education landscape. So, and then we worked on the courts. There was something called the Supreme Court Gender Bias Task Force I served on. So there are 2 themes to this book, and I tell this story, and why I call it When You Dare to Say Yes is it's a story of I never planned to get involved in politics. I was down at UC Davis finishing up a PhD in cultural anthropology because I'd lived over in the Middle East. I had this global perspective, and I wanted to sort of bring that and help build cross-cultural understanding and so forth. And it just happened that I was asked to serve on the state steering committee for the Nevadans for ERA, and they assigned me the task of finding somebody in the open legislative seat in Douglas County that would support the ERA, and I couldn't find one. And so I come back to the steering committee. I said, I just can't find anybody credible who could run and support the ERA, and they said, Jill, you do it.
Right.
And I was astonished. I said, no, I never considered that. I'm a, budding scholar in cultural anthropology. My future is in universities and teaching and writing and so forth. In the end, I couldn't find anybody else. And I said, okay. And in the end, a story most people don't know, because Douglas County, one of the most, if not the most Republican registered counties in the state, probably 80% Republican at the time. And I'm a woman and a Democrat, and Douglas has never elected one of those. So I went back, having agreed to this ridiculous proposition. I thought, this is a lark. I don't know how to do this, and it doesn't have a chance. I organized, brought together my 5 best friends. We ordered books on how to run a political campaign. We read every chapter. We did it. We laid out a plan so that at the end, there were rumors in Douglas County that it's being orchestrated out of Washington. It's just too professional. The night of the election, I have to tell you, the television went off the air and said the upset in Nevada is that Democrat Jill Derby has won the assembly seat in Douglas County, the most Republican county in the state. And we were jubilant, but we knew we'd been doing the polling, and I'd been out there. We'd done all the things you do, precinct targeting. I walked neighborhoods. I walked in rural neighborhoods chased by dogs jumping over fences. We did what the book said you do. And but the next morning, the absentee ballots turned it over. So we were jubilant for a night, and then the absentee ballots turned it over. But I tell the story of it opened up all sorts of doors to me. The next thing that happens, I think Governor Callahan, I believe, appointed me to the Judicial Selection Commission, and people said, wow, she came so close. So I got involved in training women to run and how to be an effective candidate. And it just tells the whole story of all that happened after that. It's my story, but more than that, it's how that came about and the chapters in Nevada history. What I brought out of my background, born in Lovelock, a native, with a Derby family having a long history in Nevada. Derby Dam relates to my great-grandfather. But anyway, there's my story in there, but more importantly, it's about these 5 decades of important Nevada history that led to this significant event in 2018, and all that came out of it. So the other theme, and I like to stress this, is the importance of everybody making their voice heard in a democracy. How important it was then, all the more important now, is democracy doesn't work without citizen engagement. And I talk about how it was way over my head to volunteer to do this, but it led to a long 5 decades of public activism and opportunities and doors that opened that gave me a chance to make a difference and be involved in policy in Nevada, both in terms of leveling the playing field for women and in education advance.
So how cathartic was it for you to write this book?
Well, what do I want to say? I loved writing. COVID is what happened because I was busy traveling. I do work still in higher education governance consulting around the country and internationally, really. And I just wouldn't have thought I had time. COVID happened. We're locked down. Everything's going on Zoom. And I thought, Nevada needs to hear about this history that isn't really recorded anywhere else.
Right.
And that's why I I wrote about 5 chapters. I was home a year and a half, locked in on Zoom, but had time to write. And it took a lot because I had to recover records that the University of Nevada here has files on Nevada women and history, and I had to pull my files out that I'd contributed and So it was a lot of historical research, getting all the facts right, because I wanted to have names and facts. I wanted it to be history, but there's also my commentary along the way about how it was living abroad and coming back in the late 60s and seeing a country that was just erupting, that hadn't been that way when I left. So, just as a cultural anthropologist, a lot of commentary as I went along, but it's really the recording of those 5 decades of history that I think it was an important contribution, and the University of Nevada Press thought so too.
Well, and I have not read it yet, but I'm looking forward to reading it because you just can't get enough of actual Nevada history, yes. And this is such an important thing. And whenever we have discussions like this, it always reminds me of my mom. My mom was brilliant at mathematics, but she was born in 1914. And when you were born in 1914 and you went to CPA school, the boys in the class laughed her out of it, and there was no place for women back in those days. And so she turned it around and tutored all the kids in the neighborhood in math and became a bookkeeper, and that was her way to go forward. But she would have made a fortune because she was brilliant at mathematics, but it just wasn't able in those times for a woman to be able to be in that profession.
That's exactly right. And that was the driving force behind me volunteering to be on the state steering committee for the ERA. It's just the recognition of that. My mother was a school teacher, but there wouldn't have been other opportunities for her, certainly not to rise to the level of principal. And now you look around and the world has really changed, but that kind of change takes the initial group of people that are willing to just put their lives and efforts into it against a lot of opposition. We faced, and I talk about it in the book, tremendous opposition. I mean, people said in the 70s when we were working on this, it'll ruin the family. We won't even have families anymore. Women in the military. And, it just was really portrayed horrific consequences. So we lost it because, in fact, the opposition had a good story and people don't like change, and we know that today. I mean, it's hard to break away from tradition, and tradition's important, but sometimes to make it a level playing field, to give everybody with talent like your mother the opportunity to express it and make a difference. It takes people who are willing to rally against the opposition and the resistance to change to see that happen, but it doesn't happen overnight. That's why 50 years.
Yes, but it's evolution. I mean, that's the part.
It is.
And, the world does not blow up because somebody came up with a new idea.
Yes.
And we try it and we see if it works or not.
Yes.
And as you mentioned earlier, the legislature is a perfect example of Nevada is still moving forward, Nevada is still growing.
Yes.
And it is not blown up because women became in charge of the legislature.
Yeah, that's right.
You also came from, because back when you started, if you go back 50 years, Nevada was a much more conservative place.
Yes.
And even Democrats were conservative.
Oh, absolutely.
And you ran for Congress as a Blue Dog Democrat.
That's right.
Which was highly appropriate at the time, and you came very close to winning CD2.
That's right.
But a good portion of that was because of that background. Harry Reid and Richard Bryan were conservative Democrats when I first came to Nevada.
That's right.
So it's interesting to see how all of that progressed and how things move. But evolution is a really important thing to bear in mind.
It is.
Let's take a break. Let's come back. We'll talk more about the book and then other issues that tie into this, all right?
Okay, great then.
And we'll be right back.
Oh.
what do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, the book is When You Dare to Say Yes, Jill Derby and Nevada Activism. Jill Derby is with us. One of the things you talked about in the first segment was that you had traveled abroad and came back to the United States with a different perspective. And that's something to me that is so important. My wife and I still travel all over the world because it is rejuvenating, but it's also so educational. When you came back, and you came back in the late 60s, which was such a turbulent time in the United States, what did you learn and what did you find?
Well, I talk about that in the book because as an educator, I am such an advocate for students living abroad. Going abroad for as long as time as you can, because it changes your whole perspective. You know, when you're raised in one culture, one society, that's the one lens you have to make sense of the world. But then when you travel the world and you see it's a world of variety of different cultures and people just living life differently, there's so many ways to be a human being in this world.
Right.
And you discover that, and it gives you a whole broader perspective. You know, when I came back, I had a whole different understanding of the Vietnam War than I would have when I left. Just having encountered, and I talk a bit about this in the book because I was in the Middle East in the 1967 war, and how being with people from a variety of backgrounds, you just got a fuller picture and a broader lens to see your own country. I just think until you live abroad or you spend time abroad, you can't see your own country and society with a clear lens.
No,
because it's always going to be limited.
Well, and I couldn't agree more, because I grew up the first 19 years I lived in London. I didn't travel to Scotland, Ireland, or Wales, nowhere in Europe. My first voyage was to the United States, okay. And then I got the travel bug, because yes. I was here for 3 months and traveled all around the country. I fell in love with the country, but went back to England. But now I was hooked. I had seen that there was a different world. Now I feel so stupid that I go to Europe as often as I can, when I was 15 minutes away from Europe, living in London, yes. but had no clue that that was there.
And you know, the United States, we tend to be pretty insular, and of course Nevada does, because we're even more insular, but two big oceans on either side. It takes more to travel to Europe, to the Middle East, to Asia. And all those places. I mean, most Americans hold fewer passports than most people, certainly in Europe. But it's just maybe it's easier to travel to Canada, Mexico. They're close by. We can drive there if need be. But so Americans don't travel nearly as much as people in other cultures. So one of the things I loved about living abroad for 3 years was the friends I made who could talk about the world, world events, in a way that when I came back, I just discovered not only were we in these turbulent 60s, it'd been pretty quiet when I left, and I thought, what happened? I had culture shock coming home to that. I thought, because I was raised in the silent 50s, conformist silent 50s, and I come back in the 60s, just 180-degree turned the pages on that.
All right.
I talk about that in the book, what that was like for me.
All right, so just to bring it into modern day realm for comparison, so you come back in the late 60s, we have the 1968 conventions, the riots, etc., that went on. People are comparing what's happening today with the universities to what happened back then. But it was different because we were involved in a war where there were United States citizens who were fighting over in Vietnam. A big difference between then and now. How do you see that comparison?
Well, you know, I still work in higher education,
Yes.
as you know. And so I do have a perspective on that, and I'm a little frustrated about the dominant narrative around it, because I think we must never forget that protesting is 100% American, and that civil disobedience is 100% American. And the contrast in Russia, if you protest the government's policies, in Russia you get arrested. That's why the optics of the police going to these campuses is a very bad, you can disagree with our government in this and get out and protest it. And I think the optics of that's why most university presidents are resisting calling in the police. There are issues, I mean, students that already are in a campus have a right to be there, even with encampments. It's disruptive. But the universities are trying to deal with it. Now, there are a lot more issues around that. But the thing that I think is so important is, remember, in Russia, if you protest against the government, you get arrested. We shouldn't be arresting people that protest in America. We believe in that right. The problem is that protests have gotten more and more aggressive because of what happened January 6th. There's sort of a tone that was set in January 6th, more aggressive and hostile, and there's some of that mixed in. But primarily people are protesting our government's policies in providing weapons and bombs to Israel that are killing civilians in Gaza. Now they're calling for divestment. There's an old history to that. Back in the 80s and 90s, 155 universities divested their endowment funds from South Africa because of apartheid. So there's a tradition of arguing for that, and that's become a banner topic. The other thing I want to say, and I think it's important to say, it's a false narrative to suggest this is all about anti-Semitism. You look at who's demonstrating and you see signs that say Jews for justice, Jews for a free Palestine. So the Jews themselves are divided on this. It isn't about anti-Semitism. Not that there isn't some of that. As we know, there's racism in America. But these protests by these students are not primarily about that. They're protesting government policy and against Israel's government policy. It's not about their being Jewish. It's about the policies that are going on in Gaza.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We don't have a lot more time, but we have some time right after this time out.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org. Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Turn your clunker into a caddy during the Cadillac and Cash giveaways at Tamarack Casino. Weekly cash drawings including $5,000 cash and one top prize of $10,000. Win the grand prize of a Cadillac CT4 or $40,000 in cash. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
calamity. It lurks around every corner. Or not. That's why UMC Quick Care is around every corner, with locations around the valley. UMC Quick Care, for all your small calamities.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Jill Derby. Her book is called When You Dare to Say Yes, Jill Derby and Nevada Activism. You can get it everywhere the books are sold. You and I will have another conversation about all that's going on in the Middle East, because it really is such a broad topic, and there are so many areas that are not being addressed in the media and in conversations. And so you have us against them, depending on what side you're on, and it's a much bigger conversation. But
I'd love to talk about that.
Yes.
Another time.
Yes, I congratulate you on the book.
Thank you.
And I look forward to reading it, and thank you so much for coming in so early.
Thank you, Sam, for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. People are telling me they really enjoy it, and it's a chunk of Nevada history that wouldn't be told otherwise.
Exactly, and that's what we all have to take part in.
Yes.
Thank you again, Jill, and we'll be right back.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Event Center sits at the heart of the Las Vegas Strip. 2 floors of meeting and event space are ideal for groups and conventions. Stay in one of 200 luxurious rooms and suites. Brand your event throughout the property. Flexible event spaces make for easy planning and personalization. Take over the entire hotel with a full buyout option.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers. You can catch us online 24 hours a day at nevadanewsmakers.com, or you can download the podcast wherever you like to get your podcast. We'll see you on the next broadcast.